to Generations of the Game. This is our third podcast. It's your boy JP. Of course, got my boy Will right here with us. What's up, Will? How you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm great. Anytime we recording, brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Just getting through the week, getting ready for the weekend, and next weekend, of course, is Christmas is fast approaching.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Especially being with family and friends, and having the dinners and get-togethers and gatherings and stuff. It's always a good time, man. Always a good time this year. And also, of course, the sports, of course, which we're about to get into right now. And of course, one of the sports that will be playing on Christmas Day is the NBA. And I guess we're going to get into a player who will not be on the Christmas Day schedule. Seems like they just sacked him we don't know when he'll come back, and that is Draymond Green, man. We saw the suspension coming, but indefinite. I mean, that could be anywhere from 10 games to 40 games. Who knows? It could be the season, which I doubt seriously. But Will, what's your thought on the Draymond Green situation?
I mean, a lot of thoughts here, man. The situation itself is just ridiculous. From the hit itself to Draymond trying to make it sound like it was an accident. We've all been out there on the court jockeying for position or whatever, and accidentally hit somebody with an elbow or something. Maybe, you're trying to box out or whatever. You never completely did a 360 with a wind up and came across somebody's head, So I do think suspension is absolutely warranted, indefinite, interesting. I think that 10, maybe 15 games, that's more along the lines of what I was expecting. But I do think that, the league office has to take a stand at this point because, when he choked Gobert, the amount of games he got, to be honest, in my opinion, that was, too small, of a suspension, for what he did. It's one thing, in the heat of the moment, a flagrant or something like that, but to run up on somebody from behind and choke them out and get 5 games, that's ridiculous. And then now, they're saying they're trying to give him a chance to go to counseling and deal with whatever demons he may be battling. I'll be honest, man, like his play is already declined to the point where he's only a star in name. So I feel like that's why the league is dropping the hammer the way that they are right now.
Yeah. Man, Draymond is really, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Steph is the best player on that team. Has always been. But Draymond is like the extra sauce you put in the drink. Mm-hmm. Great player, in my opinion, Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
The resume is there for Hall of Famer. The best defender in his era, as far as I'm concerned, the NBA could guard anybody from the point guard to the center position. I do think a suspension was warranted. I said maybe 10 or 15 games too. And I thought maybe 10 games the first time too. But hopefully, man, Draymond just, gets his act together, man, because he's too good of a player to be going through this, and whatever he's going through, man, definitely wishing him the best of whatever's going on. Whether it be personal problems. Hey, man, we all got personal problems, that we go through in this journey we call life. I just hope he gets the treatment and he comes back being the Draymond Green that we know. The inspirational, the heart and soul, really the inspirational leader of Golden State. The guy that gets the players fired up and everything. He fires up everybody, and hopefully, man, he gets that because, he's too great of a player and definitely a future Hall of Famer. And I don't want to see him getting kicked out of the league over some nonsense. But a penalty had to happen for Draymond, man. Definitely. I was going to say, Will, maybe 15 to 20 games. I thought it was going to happen, but I didn't see indefinite suspension, which could be in the regular season.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
however long he meets his stipulations. But I understand where the league's coming from too. They're trying to get away from this stuff. You know, a lot of some stuff happened back in the 70s, the 80s, with certain things that happened and everything, man, and they have a brand to protect. And right now the NBA brand is very good right now. So, we definitely want to wish Draymond the best, and when he comes back being Draymond, as we know him, the intense defensive player, can score for you when he can. He does all the nuts and bolts things that doesn't get into the stat sheets and stuff. But people that know basketball know Draymond Green is a great player, man, hell of a player. So
absolutely.
yeah, and also in the world of the NBA, it seems like we have crowned the inaugural, what's this, mid-season championship, I guess, that they had.
Yep, the
The
in season tournament. Yeah,
Yeah. And the winner of that turned to be the Los Angeles Lakers. And man, I mean, what can you say? LeBron showed out, but the dominant performance from Anthony Davis in that game, man, was just crazy, bruh.
I'll be honest, man. AD showed some all-time stuff, in that championship game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was everywhere. Offense, defense, you know, and that's the thing with him. We know the talent that he has, but a lot of times you might feel like there's more. He leaves more left to be desired when you watch him play. He's so talented that he can coast and still have 20, 10, a couple blocks. But this AD, when the way he was engaged, that's the AD that the Lakers need. With LeBron attempting to scale it back a little bit, in hopes of having something left when it really counts, to go for that championship, you know. And I gotta give credit, man. The role players like you were talking about last week, really, you know, took things to another level. D'Lo, had a few huge games for the Lakers. Austin Reeves, just as fans were starting to kind of change their minds on him, turned back up, some really timely buckets, and passes off the bench, and we can't forget, man, the Tri-State's own Cam Reddish. It's not always scoring, but that defense, is exactly what the Lakers needed, the past couple seasons.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree, man. And the bench played well, like you said, as well. Jackson Hayes gave him some good minutes. What's his name that played with Dallas last year? I'm having Woods. Woods played. Woods he played well. The bench played very well. But man, once again, man, LeBron James, man. I mean, man, what more can you say about a man about to turn 39 years old, playing at the level that he's playing at, man? I mean, it's amazing. And we got to remember, Gabe Vincent hasn't even started playing yet.
Yep.
So you add him with what they got. I'm gonna tell you something, man. The Lakers role players keep playing like this. AD playing as great as we've seen AD play. We know he's a great player. We know he's an all-time great. But him playing like bubble AD, he plays like this the rest of the year. And of course, LeBron gives you what he gives you. They're going to be a serious contender to win the championship. And that's what they have, that hunger to win a championship. I mean, man, AD was relentless.
Absolutely. And the thing, with AD that's so special is the fact that, of course, the Lakers needed scoring, but he changes games completely. And he's the type of player, like, you go back, I know you like talking, old school. So go back to a Bill Russell, a player that can completely alter a game just with his rebounding and with his shot block and that presence down in the paint. I know AD falls in love with the jumper, but when he's really engaged in being that paint presence, man, it's scary for the league.
It really is scary. And we remember AD was at Kentucky. He could score, but he was more of a defensive player. And in my opinion, when he was at Kentucky, he would probably be the best shot blocker I saw since Alonzo Mourning. And in some ways, he was better than Alonzo Mourning because with his shot blocking, the scoring was always there. He's more of inside. We developed the outside jumper and everything, man. And he played very well. And speaking of continuing to talk about AD, we saw a battle last night, Will, with him and Victor Wembanyama last night. San Antonio versus the Lakers, which tried to be a very good game last night.
Man, talk about present versus future. That was a heck of a matchup. And I'll be honest, man, I thought we were going to be robbed of a great matchup because, first off, they were marketing it as, LeBron, Wemby. LeBron's not playing. And then I'm watching, and it looks like AD tweaks his ankle, and I'm like, man, here we go. But he stayed in. He played, man. He laced it up tighter like you do in the park, and he played with some grit and some toughness, man. Yeah. And, I got to give credit where it's due. Obviously we can't see the future. We don't know if he continues to play like this. But AD is playing like he wants to be a first-team All-NBA player right now, and it's hard to stop him, man, like when he's engaged like this. He didn't have a block last night, but he hit the boards relentlessly. He had 4 steals. He had 37 points. I mean, what more can you ask, of your number one option? And then Wemby, going out there 30 and 13 with 6 blocks, man. I know you said on the first episode when we talked about Wemby that you felt like he has a chance to be the best shot blocker that you may have ever seen, and that's spanning some years. I know a lot of people get caught up in recency bias, but think about it, man. He goes out and he gets 5-6 blocks in his sleep, and just in the flow of the game, he's not hunting for blocks like some players do. Listen, God willing, man, he's healthy. He can rewrite some records.
Oh, man, let me tell you something, man. Victor Wembanyama, I feel as though, look, I normally don't say this, but he has the potential to be on that level or near that level of a Wilt and Kareem. Yeah, I said it. I think Wilt and Kareem are the 2 best big men to ever play this game. But I feel as though when it's all said and done with the all around game that he has, he could be something that we've never seen, man. The big men right now in the NBA, the big man is back. Whoever says the big men, this is the 90s and stuff, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you. The big men have a chance to be better than the big men in the 90s. And I love the big men in the 90s. You talk about the Lonzo Mournings, the Olajuwons, the Ewings, the Shaqs, and all of them. But you talk about this Victor Wembanyama, you talk about Anthony Davis, the Joker, and of course, we can't forget about Joel Embiid, who's really, really playing some phenomenal basketball this year. I mean, and the stuff these guys could do, whether it's dribble the basketball, bringing the ball up the court, the rebounding, the shot blocking, the scoring. Oh, we can't forget Chet Holmgren neither. What am I talking about? That's 5 big men right there that we basically have right now. These are the new wave of big men. And what I like about it, Will, is you have the old school big men. Jokic been around 10 years, and Embiid been around 10 years, AD been around 10, 11 years. But now you have the Chet Holmgrens and you have the Victor Wembanyamas, who are basically their first years of league. I like the mixture of big men that you have. You have some quality. You have some other quality big men in this league too. Maybe not superstars on that level, but look at like a Miles Turner. He's a very good. He's a good center. I look at man, who else do we look at out there? Will that's a pretty good center.
One that really caught my eye, man. Like when you talk about league pass teams, young teams that you don't expect to win a lot, but they got a lot of talent, and it's Houston, man. Alperen,
Houston.
his his blend of, playmaking ability, being able to pass, being able to post up, being able to score some, and he plays a game with an extremely high IQ, man. I'm not saying he's, Joker, but he's in that type of mode, playmaking, center. He arguably, well, before this season, now that they have Van Fleet, it's a little different, but he was his
Mhm.
team's best playmaker as a center. That's something you don't see,
Mhm.
too often.
Yeah, yeah. And you got other big men that are going to be in the league too, like the kid from UConn, Clarigan.
Yeah.
You got this kid Alex Cesar, I think. It's supposed to be, some people say, going to be #1 pick from France, 7'1", and of course you got Aaron Bradshaw. Aaron Bradshaw's going to be in this mix too eventually. Who had a monster game last week for Kentucky against Penn, and he shows a lot of potential of scoring from the elbow, 15 feet and in, and also is a great shot. He's a great shot blocker as well. So the big man is back for basketball. People always talking about, oh, where the big men at? You have no more big men. Yeah, you start to really see some great big men in the NBA right now. You
Hey,
really are.
before we move on, man, I forgot a big one. Bam Adebayo, man.
Oh, how do we forget Bam Adebayo?
I
How do
don't
we
know.
forget him?
I don't know, man, but we did. But
We
shout
we
out.
forgot about Bam, and he's not as tall as some of these guys. He doesn't have the length, but he will battle you
Yeah, he
down in that
plays.
paint, man.
Absolutely,
He
he
will.
plays big.
He plays big. He plays big for what he does. And I guess you got to consider Christoph Porzingis a big man too.
Yeah, 7'3".
He,
He plays
yeah,
down
7'3". He's definitely a very, very, very good player as well. Very good player.
there.
I mean,
Absolutely.
he's battled some injuries, but he's a solid player. And of course, man, we can name more. Brooke Lopez. Brooke Lopez, you got to see, is an elite big man in this league.
And
So
Brooke
we've
been
named you. We
Brooke
gave you about 7 or 8 right there.
and shout out to Brooke Lopez, man. He's been around a long time. It don't seem like it, but he has.
He has, and he's really evolved his game more.
Yep.
He could shoot the ball outside. He could rebound. He could block shots. Speaking of which, we need to get into his teammate, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Been on last night, on and off the court. On the court, 64 points, Milwaukee Bucks record. Off the court, man, you better give that man that game ball. He was hunting for that last night. He was hunting for that game ball. What do you think about his performance last night, Will?
Man, the performance on the court, phenomenal, man. When you
Mhm.
look at the history of the Milwaukee Bucks franchise, you had Kareem there, you had Oscar Robertson there. Even some guys that weren't quite at that level but could score, your Michael Reds and things of that nature, Ray Allen, right? For him
I'm
to
gonna give you, not to cut you off. I'm gonna give you 2 more names too. We're forgetting about one Hall of Famer, and the other one should be in the Hall of Fame too, which is Marcus Johnson, and we can't forget Sidney Moncrief as well. They were 2 of the all-time greats. And I wanted to add another player that played with Kareem and Oscar, who was one of the most underrated players from the 70s, Bobby Dandridge. Bobby Dandridge was a great player who just got into the Hall of Fame, I think a couple years ago, deservedly so. He should have been in.
yeah.
But yeah, Milwaukee's had some great players. Like you said, out of the great players, him breaking the record, but go on. I'm sorry about that.
No, I appreciate that history, man. That's part of what makes this show great. When
Mm-hmm.
you break a record, you're not even talking about just your own career high, but a franchise record. That is a monumentous, occasion, right? So I do think, obviously there's protocols and things. If somebody gets their first bucket, they're supposed to get a game ball. Look, man, I'm sorry, Rook. This guy just made history. We'll grab you another ball and sign it and give it to you. You can put that in your house. But this guy just went into the record books again. But this time he's at the top of the list for individual scoring performances for his franchise. But I think it was more like to it as far as like the Pacers. I just genuinely think it was a pettiness. Like, they didn't like the fact that Giannis almost gave him 70.
Yeah, yeah. And what was he from the floor last night? I think he was 20 for 24 from the field, and I think he was 24 for 28 from the free throw line last night. So, you know, efficient, 64 points, no 3-pointers, all 2-pointers and down the paint, man. Giannis is amazing. The November 9th, he gave him 54 points. So when they played him again, you might look for him getting 70 next time he plays the Pacers.
Yeah, at this trajectory, he'll have 74 next game. He's going up 10 points every time.
You're right. 10 points. 10 points every time. But Giannis is just a special player, man. You know, people say, well, he don't shoot threes. He doesn't need a 3-point jumper. He dominates you in other ways. He dominates games. Really, I mean, you saw that in Game 7 2 years ago, going on 3 years now, when he played against the Phoenix Suns and had those 50, which to me, the two best Game 7s I ever seen in my life was Magic Johnson, of course, his rookie year, 42, 15, and 8, and Giannis with that 52 points against the Phoenix Suns in the closeout game. Those were the two best final performances I ever seen in my lifetime. You know, and well, I'm gonna tell you something. I had a conversation with one of my friends this morning. We talk about the greatest power forwards of all time. Giannis is creeping up there, man. You know, I mean, I don't really try to do that type of thing. If you ask me who the greatest power forwards of all time is, Tim Duncan. But when it's all said and done, Giannis is in that category. You know, you can make a case he's a top 5 power forward right now. Got to consider him, Tim Duncan, Garnett, Dirk.
Yep.
You know, I know I'm skipping some more. Elvin Hayes was a good one. Bob Pettit, who really invented the power forward back in the late 50s. He was a great player. Karl Malone, of course. You know, you've had some great power forwards, but Giannis is in that category with them in being the you know, some of the best power forwards of all time this game has seen. And Giannis is one of the best players this game has seen as well. I mean, the resume speaks for itself.
And he's still relatively young, you know, with the resume that he has. So
Yeah.
you know, he's only going to add to that, you know. So I agree with you, you know, already, you know, has a resume of a top 5 player at the position, you know, and he's moving up the list as far as, you know, regardless of position, all-time players.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Giannis, when it's all said and done, like I said, I don't do who's the greatest of all time and you know and everything like that. But Giannis is up there, man. Giannis is definitely up there. You know, I don't do who's the greatest player of all time. I don't do that. Oh, by the way, shout out to my coworker, Joe Lawson, who listens to the show. He always listens to every episode we have, and he always tells me, "Oh, Kobe's the greatest." I said, "Joe, we don't do that. We don't do that." So, yeah, shout outs to him. I know he'll be listening when he hears this when we drop this podcast and stuff. Appreciate him listening, but yeah, man. But getting back to Giannis, though, I mean, you know, the ball handling, the rebounding, the shot blocking. I mean, he when he wants to, he could just take a game over and it's just so relentless.
And it's special because, you know, when you talk about players that don't really shoot, you know, the three or you know, as they like to call it, have a deep, you know, offensive bag or anything like that, you know what's coming, but you can't stop it no matter what.
No matter what. No matter what kind of defense you throw at him or whatever, you can throw a wall at him. Mm-hmm. But if Giannis is hitting that 15-foot jump shot, that'll even bring in more problems. People say, well, like I said earlier, he doesn't have a 3-point shot. He doesn't need one. But if Giannis ever develop a 3-point jumper, it will be lights. You think it's lights out now? Nah, it really be some Teddy Pendergrass turn off the lights. It really would be. It really would be, man. As we segue now, Will, into the world of college football. Last week, we crowned a Heisman Trophy winner. And I think we both, in fact, I know we both said the winner was going to be Jaden Daniels. Sure enough, he did. Young man deserved it. Speak on it, brother.
I mean, I feel like this one was, a layup pretty much. I mean, no disrespect to the other, candidates, but when you accumulate just under 5,000 total yards and 50 touchdowns, for a team that plays in, what you might as well say is the most dominant conference in the sport, you have to acknowledge that. Even the games they lost, he was putting up video game numbers, so shout out to Jaden Daniels, man. What he was able to do with the LSU Tigers, man, was truly special stuff. And honestly, shout out to that program. They had multiple Heisman winners in like a 4 years.
Last 5 years. The last 4 years. Yeah, him and Joe Burrows, who arguably we're going to do that one day. Maybe we'll do that soon. What are the top 5 best college football seasons of all time? Because to me, it comes down to Joe Burrows and Barry Sanders who had the best season of all time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they put up video game numbers. Joe Burrows put up video game numbers. Barry Sanders put up some video game numbers that I think may never be broken. I mean, over 2,600 yards and 44 touchdowns. That would never. Barry Sanders was a video game in college, man, and so was Joe Burrows too. People say, well, he had Justin Jefferson and he had Jamar Chase. Yeah, they were two great receivers. We know that. But Joe Burrow's also proven to prove that he's a very damn good quarterback as well. But anyway, getting back to the young man, Jaden Daniels, man, 3,500 yards passing this year, almost 1,000 yards. I think he did have 1,000 yards rushing. I know he had over 4,000 yards total offense. He passed for 40 touchdowns and he ran for 10. So he had himself. He might have a shot. Haven't won the top 5 to 10 years ever in Heisman Trophy history too. Maybe in college football history. I mean, he had a very good year, and also he's shooting up the draft charts. It seems like too. I saw one mock draft. I think it was on ESPN. I think it was Kuiper. One of them had him at as number 5, going it was number 5 picking the draft from top 5. They're saying that he's really improved on the deep ball and he's mobile. He gets out the pocket and stuff. He's something like the quarterbacks that you're looking for nowadays.
Absolutely. And one thing, with Jaden Daniels and some of the other players as well that we've seen have huge years, we can't ignore the fact that a lot of these guys are, seniors or even fifth-year seniors. The amount of experience and, just the reps, that translate into that type of success on the field, is truly something to look at, and we see it in other sports too sometimes, but obviously it's a little different in football, having to play a minimum of 3 years or be in college a minimum of 3 years to be draft eligible. So I do think that definitely contributes to the high level, of play that we're seeing. Right.
And also, 3 of the 4 leading Heisman Trophy candidates also were transfers.
Yep.
And I think I read somewhere yesterday where they said I think it's 5 of the 10 last Heisman Trophy winners are transfers as well. Something to that effect. Yeah. So these kids go to the portal and they do what they have to do. Sometimes going to another place is a better opportunity for you.
Yep, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's about. Opportunity. You want to play, make the league. Sometimes you might have to go to another school. A change of scenery is always better. As they always say, change is good. Speaking of changing, let's talk about the NFL, especially NFL East. We saw Dallas beat up on Philly last week. Man, I was really surprised about that. I thought Philly was going to put up a better battle, but I think it's a couple of things going on with Philly right now. Number one, 3 games in the last, 14 days, I guess, or whatever. And I
Yeah.
mean, they played quality opponents. You had Buffalo. You had no, I'm sorry. You had it was Buffalo, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Buffalo, 49ers, and Dallas back to back. Before that was Kansas City. So that was on a Monday night. Then you had a short week with Buffalo on a Sunday night. Then you had um what should we call it? San Fran on a Sunday afternoon. Then you play them. Then you play Dallas on a Sunday night. I think the schedule got to them a little bit here with that, but also I think they're battling some injuries. The offensive line doesn't seem to be as dominant as it was last year. The defensive line isn't as dominant as it was last year, although the defensive line is good, but not as dominant. So when you put all that in perspective, you can see why they're struggling. And yeah, well, we got to give the Dallas Cowboys some credit, man. We got to give them some credit. My brother's a big Dallas Cowboys fans. Rod's brother-in-law Keith is a big Cowboys fan. So I got to hear their mouths all this week about what happened and everything. But the Cowboys, man, are playing at an elite level right now. Defense, of course, is lights out. The corners, Gilmore and Bland, they did a hell of a job on the Eagles wide receivers. And of course, you got that monster Mekhi Parsons and Lawrence up there up front. And CeeDee Lamb is one of the best receivers in football. You got to say that. He's an elite receiver. He's one of the best. And man, what can you say about Dak? It's the best we've ever seen Dak play, man. I mean, Dak is a strong candidate for MVP right now. I think it comes down to him or Purdy right now from San Francisco's quarterback who's going to get the MVP. But what was your takeaways from the Dallas Eagles game last week?
I think, the span of games that the Eagles played definitely played a role in it. Also, like we talked about, I just feel like the Eagles don't play with a sense of urgency until, it's the middle of the third, even just the fourth quarter, and when you're playing against middle of the pack teams, or teams that's going to be, in the top 10 picks again, you can get that off. You're more talented, but when you start to have those matchups against teams that are, even as far as the talent, that's when you have a problem, especially when some of these teams are motivated, they're coming out there, Dallas, San Fran, they were out there, not literally, but for blood. They were out there, to get their lick back. They saw, the Eagles, have a good season last year, make it to the championship, talking the whole way. This year, you kind of could argue they were, talking and celebrating like they're the reigning Super Bowl champs, because they came back in a lot of games. And I feel like across the league, a lot of teams took that as disrespect, what you typically hear called bulletin board material, and ultimately the Eagles, obviously it's a team game, but the Eagles, as we know, man, when it comes down to winning time, like we talk about that man, Jalen Hurts, great player, but you and I both talked about it, and you can see it. He is not 100%. And the fact that he has to run for his life so much, that's only hurting the Eagles and their offense. Sometimes he's able to make that play, make that read, on the fly. But it's hard, man, to make the right read and make that pinpoint throw, when you got an all-pro linebacker or a defensive lineman, coming at your head.
Yeah, especially we got Parsons, definitely one of the top two, even TJ Watt, whatever, which one of those two you want as being the best pass rushers in this game. So yeah, you're right when they coming down on you, and that Dallas defensive line is nasty. So yeah, we got to give them their due. I guess, man, we got to talk about some other stuff that went on NFL this week. Kansas City arguing about the call against Kadarius Toney when he was clearly offsides. Come on. He was offsides, man. There's no ifs, ands about it. He was offsides. And we'll see what Kansas City does, man. I definitely think that Mahomes is lacking a number one, and it's really showing right now, like a really go-to receiver outside of Travis Kelce.
Oh, yeah. If I was Kansas City, I would have made a call and asked Tennessee what it would have taken to get Hopkins.
They could have had him. He was out there.
Yeah.
He was basically out there. And you put DeAndre Hopkins on this team right now, they would be much better than what they were. Yep. Not saying that the Kansas City look, Kansas City's the upgrade. I think that would have made the other receivers better. Yep. Because having DeAndre Hopkins out there with Mahomes and Kelsey, oh man. And he already got the pretty good running game with Pacheco. He's a solid running back. So I look for them in the offseason really to go after a number one. T. Higgins is out there from Cincinnati. I can see him maybe going there as a free agent. Now, of course, Mike Evans is a free agent. Well, Mike Evans is a little older, but still Mike Evans could still stretch the field a little bit on you. But I'm going to give you a name of a player I think that would be interesting with Kansas City. Would be Stephon Diggs with Mahomes.
That would be a good one. There's been a lot of drama with him in Buffalo, man. I could see him leaving.
That would be very, very interesting. Although Buffalo's been playing very well lately these past couple games. And I'm trying to tell these Cowboy fans, don't get your hopes up too high yet. Because you got to go to Buffalo this weekend. And that weather, them elements right there, that 10 to 15 degrees off that Lake Erie and maybe a little bit of snow on the ground, don't sleep on Buffalo.
Absolutely.
Josh Allen's playing at a high level. Mm-hmm. So, and I think they're getting themselves together, like him and Diggs, because they are a great combo.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know what, though, JP, going back to free agent targets for the Kansas City Chiefs, man, I don't know, if they'll have enough money left on the salary cap, man. They got to keep paying Taylor Swift.
Oh, man. Yeah, she be at every game, man. It seems like, man. She be at every game, man. Yeah. But, also, we got to talk about the Miami Dolphins, man. Come on, you had a 14-point lead and blew it with 3 minutes left in the game. Actually, it cost me my fantasy football game. Tyreek Hill getting hurt. He kept coming in and out. To me, they should have gave the ball to Jalen Waddle a little more, in my opinion. They should have, and they committed to the run. I can understand you committing to the run. But you still got Jalen Waddle out there, and the rookie running back Archio. I can't pronounce his name. I gotta get this name right. But the rookie running back. I think he got hurt though. But they should have gave the ball to Jalen Waddle a little bit more though. But you tell when Tyreek Hill wasn't out there, the timing was off a little bit with two of the receivers. Them little screen passes like they throw to Tyreek, and he could just burst up the sidelines. They weren't there, but you still shouldn't blow a 14-point lead with 3 minutes left in the doggone football game. Come on, man.
Nah, you're right, man. 14 point lead being blown with 3 minutes. That's crazy, man. That's poor clock management, to say the least. And when you talk about Tyreek Hill being injured, man, like it just speaks to the difference maker he is. I know that it's easy to, players for granted, from a fan perspective. But I feel like we got to see in real time what that looks like, on the field. Because like you said, all those plays that, other players either can't make it all, or can't turn into big plays like, Hill can because of his speed and awareness on the field. Tua didn't have that. He didn't. And I feel like it's hard to adapt to that, especially when you're adapting, in the flow of the game that, that type of impact player got hurt in. This isn't, you had a week to go through it, and figure out, which way you guys want to, kind of shift your offensive focus. This is in real time, and it's easy to say, all right, throw to this guy now, but the defense, they out there foaming at the mouth like, look, number one is going. We got him, and sure enough, they had him.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see how the Dolphins do, man, because they got a tough game coming up on Christmas Eve with Dallas. And that could say a lot about where they're going. Are they contenders? Because they got to beat an elite team, man, and it hasn't happened quite yet. With all the talent that they have, I think they can make a statement. They beat Dallas, possibly. Hopefully Tyreek Hill is healthy. He'll play this week and next week. Because he's on pace to get that 2,000 yards. I want to see him get his 2,000. I want to see him get that 2,000 yards, man. I'd love to see that. Receiver getting that, so that would be amazing. But right now, no, Will, if I had to make a prediction of who would represent the AFC, I want to say Baltimore, but you never know which Baltimore team you're going to get, though. Sometimes, you never know. They could be dominant on defense. We know what Lamar can do. Lamar is phenomenal.
No, you're right, man. I mean, Baltimore, they look good. They got a bad habit of
playing down to the competition. Yeah. And, of course, the NFC right now, man, the cream of the cream is San Francisco, man. They're playing at a very, very elite level. If they can stay healthy with this, I don't really see nobody beating them, to be honest with you. I don't see nobody beating them because they went through their phase. They got themselves together. They got the big guns. They are the most complete team in football.
I mean, they're a well-oiled machine, man, and they play a brand of football that just beats you down, offense and defense. You got Purdy, he's clicking with Debo. You got McCaffrey, that can make plays, in the passing and the rushing game. Then, the fact that they already, had a tremendous pass rush, but then you bring in Chase Young for, it's kind of like what can you do, except hope that they beat themselves.
Him and Bosa. They got the linebackers back there, Warner and excuse me, what's the name? I think Ludrow. Man, they and then the secondary's not too bad, man. I mean that defense is lights out, and then the offense you got McCaffrey and the what's his number 11, the wide receiver. You got him. I can't forget the kid's name, and you got Debo Samuels. And you, of course, you got the tight end, the tight end that they got, Kittle, man. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, George Kittle.
Yeah, George Kittle. We talking about kittens. What the hell am I talking about, man? It's been a long night, man. Kittles is definitely one of the premier top 3 tight ends in football, man. They got, and Purdy's, people say, well, he's a game manager or whatever. Purdy is a very good quarterback, and he's very accurate when he's on. But yeah, man, San Fran is definitely, I feel as though, the team to beat right now as we look at this coming down a stretch run of the NFL season. Speaking of a stretch run, I believe that we have come to the end of our podcast, brother. Another great show again. Oh, before I forget, man, we got to give a rest in peace shout out to George McGinnis, man. All-time ABA great, NBA great, 6-time All-Star. Was really the catalyst behind the resurgence of the Philadelphia 76ers in the mid-'70s. At the time, prototype power forward at the time, 6'8", about 235, 240, nothing but solid muscle. They used to call him Big Mac. And, some people still are upset. I remember, I know some people were upset for years about him and the whole 77 debacle with the Portland Trail Blazers them losing and Maurice Lucas taking over and dominating and Bill Walton and the crew. But despite that, man, George McGinnis was a great player, man. Like I said, Hall of Famer. In the Hall of Fame, the state of Indiana, definitely one of the best players ever come out of the state of Indiana as well. We got to say rest in peace to him, man, as he passed away, I believe earlier this morning at the age of 73, man. You know, Will, that's one of the things, man, about getting older, man, is seeing players that you first remember from your childhood or your first childhood memories, man, and you're seeing these guys, you know, leaving, man. It's you know, it's a hard thing to see, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, like you said, man, couldn't have said it any better. You know, rest in peace to, you know, George McGinnis, a great player, man. You know, from the clips that I've seen, man, you know, that signature, you know, that one-handed jumper.
One-handed jumper.
He gave out a lot of buckets with that. And you know, I want to extend, you know, condolences and prayers to his family, you know, and just, you know, thank him, you know, for becoming an ancestor and also just his contributions, you know, to the game of hoops that we love.
Right, right. I mean, man, you talk about that combination of him and Doc. Man, that was a great combination right there. One a power forward, one a small forward. I mean, the 77 Sixers were probably the most talented team in the NBA at that time, but they just ran across a buzzsaw in the Portland Trailblazers, and we got a glimpse of what Bill Walton should have been. But injuries cost him. But you saw the greatness that he had after a great college career. He had them 2 seasons where he really showed you how great he could have been. But now we have a modern day Bill Walton and Jokic, the Joker. He's not as athletic as Bill Walton, but he has a lot of traits that Bill Walton had. Probably the best passing big man we've ever seen. But there's no doubt about that as far as centers go. But one of the best passers of all time, Jokic is. But then again, like I said, man, rest in peace to George McGinnis, man, and to his family. But once again, brother, great show. I would say look forward to next week. Next week, I guess we give you a sneak peek. We're going to have our high school basketball preview of what we see, not only nationally but locally. As of this recording, Imhotep's been off to a great start already. I do believe Camden opened up tonight as well. So we have a lot to talk about next week. Teams to look out for, players to look out for, etc. But for me and Will Lyons, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.